right. I'd like to call to order our regularly scheduled Utility Service Board meeting. It's Monday, September 26th. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting from September 12th. We'll do discussion first on all these items to avoid confusion. So any comments on the minutes from the previous meeting? Questions? I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next up, we have approval of the claims. Four types. First one, standard invoices. Any questions on the claims? Questions on the claims? Anybody? Okay. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next up, we have the extensive list of utility bills, 3 pages. I don't remember ever having 3 pages. Any questions on utility bills? Entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
And second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next up, we have wire transfers, fees, and payroll for the month of September 2022. Any questions on wire transfers? Do we have a motion?
Move we approve the wire transfers.
Thank you, Kirk.
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And finally, customer refunds. Any questions on the customer refunds?
Move we approve the refunds for this, for September 30th.
Second.
Any questions on those? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next up, we have the consent agenda totaling $19,499. Vic Kelson.
Good evening, everyone. Vic Kelson, Utilities Director. I'm happy to bring tonight's consent agenda. Item A is to Eagle Ridge Civil Engineering Services. This is $19,449 for modeling the Clear Creek, modeling flood stage at Clear Creek in the vicinity of the Winston Thomas property. The second item is to Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions. It's $0. First Amendment, it's just to extend the life of the agreement for the Stormwater Master Plan. The total for the consent agenda is $19,449. Would anyone like to consider either of these items independently?
No, I have a question on the first one, the Clear Creek
Is
modeling.
that should we consider it separately then?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So if there's no opposition, item B is approved without discussion? Okay, hearing no opposition, the item B is approved. We can go ahead and discuss item A by itself.
Okay, so yeah, we'll add a item here to answer questions about the Eagle Ridge Civil Engineering contract for $19,449. So I did have a question on that. Is this modeling required for our operations independent of the plans, or the tentative plans or the future plans for expansion of or relocation of the service center? Is this something we have to do regardless?
It is not. The issue is that at some point in the last 20 years or so, FEMA redrew the flood map and identified the former sludge lagoon at the Winston Thomas property as water. So it's identified on the FEMA floodplain map as being in the floodplain. So in order for us to get that corrected, we've been working with EPA and FEMA. We actually have to go through a complete exercise of modeling and petitioning to have that all changed. And James Hall will know the details, but we actually have to remodel the flood stage over there But it is not floodplain. There's actually a fairly sizable hill on the west edge of the berm. So the purpose of it is to get the floodplain map corrected so that the entire site will be properly usable.
Yeah, so currently it is in floodplain, so any fill that we put over there, anything that we pump in there would be a violation of the Clean Water Act. And so technically, we shouldn't be putting anything in that north of the BCB berm because it is in the floodway. So this will help us in the process of removing that through petition to the DNR to remove that.
So independent of any work on that site for any reason, we need to have this clarified to be able to continue to use that site in a responsible manner. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Any other questions on this item? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next up, we have a request for approval of an agreement with Smithville Telecom Internet Service upgrades at Bleacher Pool, not to exceed $62,928. Vic Kelson again.
It seems to be the Vic show tonight. The Bleacher Pool plant currently is served by a 128 kbit service for DSL service, which makes it functionally difficult to do things like interface with our other data systems or to do conferencing and so forth. But most importantly, it makes our laboratory information system very difficult to use. It takes a couple of minutes to load the pages. So that site has needed faster internet for a long time. We explored the possibility of going with a cellular connection, but that's not as reliable as what we have now. It's now possible to get a fiber connection from Smithville. It's not a very long run to get there for us. After working with ITS on this, the most cost-effective approach was to take an 8-year contract, because that's the cost was going to be about the same whether it was 5 years or 8 years, because of the need to basically to pay off the fiber run and the equipment associated with it. So that's what this is. It's an 8-year contract to provide 100 megabit per second fiber service to the Bleacher Pool plant.
Questions?
Does that enable us to, I guess, cancel other service that we have?
Yes, yes. And I can't remember, what does the DSL service cost? Does anyone know? Oh, it's $50 a month, so it's not a huge amount.
I have a few questions. First of all, I'm very pleased that we're able to use a local company to do this. I know, like on, I think, August 29th, when we voted to allow, I can't remember the name of the company, but the company that's been contracted to put in the high-speed internet in Bloomington to use our site, I just wondered, again, I'm happy that we're using the local company, but was that option explored? Like, if they're bringing this to our community and our community is hiring them to do that, is that an opportunity there?
I can't answer that
Okay.
question, but I can look into it.
Okay, I just wondered, but
Yeah.
I'm happy we're going with the local. My other question is, at the 100 megabits, I just looked that up, and that seemed like that was fast.
Yes.
Especially for out there, but in 8 years, is that something where if their technology improves that they can increase that speed, or are we at 100 megabits for 8 years?
That's an excellent question. Our contract is for 100 megabits for 8 years, but if they make gigabit speed available up there at some point in the future, we could consider renegotiating the contract.
Okay, thank you.
But for now, it's 100, and it should be plenty for what we're doing. We don't anticipate a huge change in our needs up there.
Okay, thank you.
Is the company that we contracted to use that pavement section out there utilizing any utilities of ours? Electricity or
Just the
internet
bathroom.
or anything like that?
No.
It's just storage, completely just storage?
Well, actually, we actually raised the price a little bit with them so that we could, to cover part of the internet service.
So they are going to use the internet service?
Yeah, not very much, but they will.
office space
Yeah, they got a small office space, yeah.
Okay. But we needed the internet,
We needed.
like you said, for a long time.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for years. and-
Okay, so their presence and their need is completely coincidental with this.
It is,
Okay.
but they are pitching in on it for the time period that they're there.
How much did we raise their contract by?
$200.
From, what was it, 600 a month to 800?
Yeah.
I'd entertain a motion for approval unless there are other questions.
I move we approve the contract with Smithville Telecom.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, request for approval is done. Item 5. Item 6 is request for approval of the 2022 residential stormwater grant recipients. James Hall.
Hi, James Hall, CBU Environmental. Tonight I'm bringing forward the residents that we had selected through our external committee. There's 10 of those on there, and you'll have the address. I don't want to read them off there. We had 19 applications for a total of $111,555.55. Again, we had allocated $100,000 for this, and we used $30,000 for engineering services from Smith Design Group to help us kind of weed through some of them. And then after that, we've awarded $66,855.58. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you had.
I don't have a question, I'll just make a comment. I appreciate all the work that the committee did. I was able to start out at the first half of it, and then school started when they were finishing and wasn't able to finish with the committee, but it's a wealth of knowledge that really comes from many different areas that really were thoughtful about their questions and who would be best served with this grant money. And I think that these are great recipients. It's interesting to look at them on a map and see how they flow through our town, down like Jackson Creek and different areas. And so I think this is a great list, and I'm excited for these residents to receive their stormwater grants.
Yes, and I want to thank you and the other committees.
Definitely
committee
the other
members,
committee
'cause-
members.
Yeah, because it is very time consuming
Yes.
to look through all this material. So I appreciate that.
I noticed, I think that 7 of the 10 are from the southeast quadrant of the city, and 3 of them are on High Street. Is there anything about the southeast quadrant or High Street specifically that there's greater need there? There are more problems there?
The Jackson Creek, drainage basin kind of has a bigger need, and so we've got applications from there in that whole area. So yeah, that was one of the things that we noticed with the applications as well.
Are we more focused on retention, detention, or flood prevention on some of these? Or is it a combination?
Yeah, it's a combination of all of them. And that's what kind of Smith Design Group looked at. There was one that was in there that we had initially thought we would fund, but when Smith Design Group looked at it, it was like, well, this little project is not going to make the impact, or the amount of flow that's coming through there is just far greater than whatever you're going to do, so you're just be wasting money putting it into this project. So we wouldn't recommend that. But yes, that's what we're kind of doing. What kind of benefit does it bring to the MS4 overall? And then is it rather retention or detention, or, how do we mitigate that and help, mitigate severity of issues downstream from that property?
Are we taking care of issues where there's temporary flooding in particular areas that are, particularly residential?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what, these projects are designed to do, is help move water that may be hazard flooding or temporary flooding, and kind of moving it off and storing it in these basins or into the ground, pulling it into the ground through the
Great.
bioswales.
Okay, thank you.
30,000 that was given to the consultant, I guess you call it, is that consistent with past years? Because we're cutting the 100,000 to
Yeah.
66,000.
Yeah, this was the first year that we have done that, to use the 30,000 to use an engineering firm to kind of study it. So we've been discussing it internally if it would be beneficial next year or not. Like I said, the one project, it did help, and there were other projects where we're not super familiar with the site, so when they say they needed 8-inch pipe, we're kind of relying on the contractor to be sizing it correctly. Well, they came back and said, this actually needs a 12-inch pipe, and so there were some cases in there where they really helped us with the size of the pipe in some other instances, so.
So we might want to increase the grant funding for next year or not, because again, if you know, my expectation was that 100,000 was going to go to, you know, the projects.
The projects, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know if we need to increase the funding amount. We're looking at it, and we're looking at the program and how do we serve maybe regions better of the city instead of individual properties, and how can we use that $100,000 to do that?
Okay.
So we're looking at the program overall and how does it benefit areas instead of just individual homes.
yeah, well, I hope we keep the project. I hope we keep the funding going in
Yes.
the future.
So last year, I remember we made, we had an emphasis on families that were in greater need,
Yeah.
lower income areas.
Yeah.
And we were able to, I think, fund 3 of those projects last year.
Yeah.
Did we have any applicants like that this year?
I can't answer that question. I don't remember
Okay.
each applicant, Kat Zager, our MS4, she would know that. But I know we still struggled with that. Even petitioning homeowners, like, hey, you would be good, you know, this is the material, getting some of those back. Because I know that we had done outreach in some of those areas and asked people to apply. And
Where you had identified problems and
Correct.
encouraged them to apply?
We thought, yeah, they would be good candidates and still had, and that's what we were hoping with the having the engineer on board, right? Was like, you don't have to have a great application, just get something submitted, and we know it's kind of a problem area, and then the engineer will help kind of walk it through, you know, because it's time consuming for these homeowners too, to meet with contractors, and it's a big burden for them too. So we were trying to figure out how to lessen that burden to get more applicants.
Yeah, if we could continue working on that process and finding a way to make it really easy for them and to utilize that consultant and those
Yeah.
funds to help them get in
Yeah.
an application, that'd be great.
And yeah, and I think that's what we're talking about with the regional areas, that it may be easier to do that.
Super. Any other questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
We approve the residential stormwater grant recipients for this year.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you again, Megan, for your service.
Thank you.
We have next on the agenda, old business. Any old business from the board? Old business from staff? New business from the board? New business from staff? Subcommittee reports? Didn't have any. Staff reports?
I've actually got a number of things to talk about tonight. The first one is, as you all know, there was an incident last week with a fellow who was in the storm sewer and it took several hours to find him. CBU was really proud of the efforts that, we're all very proud of the efforts that our T&D guys, James and his team did out there. They were all out there, our engineering staff. Phil was out with some folks and James was out with some folks. We had our sewer cameras down there looking for the individual, and just our team was out there all day with the new map system that we've been deploying for the last year or so. James sent me a picture of it actually displayed on the side of the police operations vehicle that was there. So it was great for our team to be participating with the police department We've gotten some very nice notes from Chief Dekoff and Deputy Chief Oldham thanking us for our efforts last week. So I just wanted to congratulate our T&D team and our engineering team and thank them for their efforts last week to help keep our community safe. The second thing, Holly's got some pictures. We have completed the construction of a new green infrastructure facility that is a detention basin on the Deer Park property just above Devon Lane on the southeast side. This was actually suggested by a resident during a site visit a couple of years ago, and to see if we could do this. And the folks at the Deer Creek were happy to let us put the detention basin there. So we have a few pictures of it. It's now complete. And basically, this is to protect this entire neighborhood. The water, if you stand at the bottom of that, it looks like an amphitheater. So the water is just coming straight for this street right down. We've also put green infrastructure along the street there as well, and new culvert pipes under the driveways. And this project was entirely constructed by CBU staff. James, do you have anything to add about it?
Yeah, no, so like Vic said, there's a lot of green infrastructure. If possible. There's there, just to the right of that inlet there, that's a bio retention basin. It's covered in straw, but it's got amended soils and rock and under drains in there. And so, yeah, this was all done by our CBU T&D staff with engineering's help. And so it was a really good first project for us, and I'm really proud of our team. They did a great job there constructing the dam and doing a lot of grading there. So.
And we haven't run all the numbers yet, but this was a project you might remember we sent out for bid that came in way above the engineer's estimate, and that's why we decided to construct it in-house. So as soon as we have all the numbers, we'll have a good estimate of what it actually costs to build it with our staff in-house. Okay, then the third thing I have is a follow-up on the virus surveillance program. The numbers have been pretty low lately, but we are working, as you know, with IU and IU Health and with Monroe County government to expand our surveillance program for viruses. We will be bringing you a contract, I think, 2 weeks from today to ratify our CBU's participation in this. We have IU Health is going to underwrite sampling and testing for Paoli and Bedford. IU will be underwriting 2 sampling points that basically cover the campus. CBU will be underwriting the Dillman and the Blucher Pool plant, and Monroe County government will be underwriting the cost for the Ellettsville treatment plant and also the South Central Sewer District plant in the southern part of the county. So altogether, that will be 8 sampling points. We'll be sampling twice a week and taking the samples to the laboratory at IU to do SARS-CoV-2, monkeypox, and influenza surveillance. So sometime in October, we expect to be starting that program up and having a lot more data about virus surveillance for the county. We think this is a great chance for us to make a difference with public health. Then the fourth thing is I'd like to introduce Hector Ortiz Sanchez, who is our new Assistant Director for Operations. Hector took over last week. Previous to being in this role, he was an operator at Dillman, but he's also been an operator of water and wastewater facilities both in the States and in Puerto Rico for about 20 years. So we're really very happy to have Hector in this role, and he's a great member of our team. And then the last thing was, are we still on to tour the garage and the hill today and go over to Winston Thomas? Great. That's all I have.
Please, yes.
So just piggybacking on what you said at your first point about helping with the situation last week, I just again want to thank our staff for that because, well, this is definitely we can't live without clean water. This is a very important place to work. It's certainly not some place where you think you're going to put your life on the line, and being out there in that situation and not knowing what that person had, I'm sure you were. So thank you. And the other thing was I just saw online where people got a notice last night that their water was out at the middle of the night. Well, maybe they were inconvenienced. I know that they don't want to get up in the middle of the night and use unsafe water, so it's important that they're notified. But more importantly, we had a crew out there working at 1:30 in the morning because they wouldn't have received that notification without that. So thank you to those folks who are out there in the middle of the night, making sure that our customers get their service back as quickly as possible. So that's all.
Thank you.
I second that.
And, good report. Let's see, what made me think about that, the first point about our support with that incident last week was how seamless is it for our law enforcement and fire department, emergency management, to access our database of where everything is, the storm drain system, our water sewer system and all that. I know we've worked for years to make that, but I also know that from past experience that, you know, one city department will buy one software program and emergency management will buy another, and they don't always talk together. So, a great ingenuity to make all that work and be able to, I guess, project it on the side of the wall there where their incident command post was set up. But just, you know, if that happens next week where they need to know where something is, how easy is it for them to access that, or how easy is it for us to get it to them?
This is a discussion that we've started to have. That system is actually, there's actually an application called Field Maps that runs on your phone. And we've been, there's also a web mapping application, which is what they were using last week. And I believe, James, did you log in as you for that, or did Phil do that?
Yeah, so, yeah, through the application, it's all the GIS, so they have access to it. It's just they need to be given permission for it. So it's something that they can use. They didn't have it, but yeah, we were logging in through multiple CBU accounts to let them access that app.
How easy was it to do that? Did it take time to get all that coordinated?
No, they called us and said that they needed us, and Phil and I and a couple of his inspectors ran down there, and then we got it going, and we had our iPads, and they hooked our iPad up to their mobile command. It wouldn't hurt to help prepare and let them know what we have, or, you know, because I suggested to them that we have a camera that goes down in these pipes all the time that we could use, and because they were scrambling around trying to find something. So, you know,
Yeah.
better coordination of what each department had would probably be helpful.
Well, we're a big part of responses like that. Just by definition, it ends up, a lot of times utilities ends up a big part of that. Even if it's not part of the water, sewer, or drainage system, a lot of times they just need our people. They need our expertise. So I guess the encouragement I'd give is great work, but let's see what we can do to kind of encourage more crosstalk so that, you know, it's great to do that at 2 in the afternoon, but what about 2 in the morning? Probably take us a lot longer to make all that happen. And if they have access and practice it, it'd probably be a good idea. It's just something that we need to be thinking about big picture in the bigger public safety piece. And you know, you mentioned that camera, and then the media reported that the suspect destroyed the camera. I don't know whether that's true or not.
It doesn't work correctly now. You have to keep turning it off and back on, but
So we can get it repaired.
working on it, right?
Maybe we should send a claim to someone.
I've checked into it.
You've already checked into it, yeah.
What was your second point, Vic?
Oh, it was the Devon Lane Detention Basin.
Okay, I can't remember there was something about that, but I forgot. Okay, good. Well, and for the wastewater surveillance program, great work there. That's coming along really well, and I think what we'll be able to do then is replace the funding that we're sending to the other lab and transfer it over to the local lab. Is that
That's
right?
That's right.
Probably maybe a difference, but,
It's a difference, but we're gonna be doing it twice a
Twice a
week and
week
doing
instead of
3
once.
different viruses.
and we'll have results within a day instead of days.
That's right.
Great.
And
Thank
3
you.
viruses instead of only 1.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I can't count the number of films that I've seen that have chases in underground sewer systems. It's got to be at least 100. So I've never come across it in the real world, though. So, so what we've heard in the last 10 minutes or so are 4 really positive things: the grants, the chasing of that person underground, the Devon Lane retention, and the wastewater surveillance. All really, really good things. And I'm not sure that I've read anything that specifically pointed to the role of CBU in this, but I have read at least 2 or 3 articles about how the water smells and tastes funny. So I'd kind of like to see the news shifted in the direction that it should be, because, I mean, these are 4 really good and important things that we're doing for the community. And, I don't know how to get the word out. I mean, when I talk to people, and, I always make sure they know they're getting their money's worth.
Thank you
So-
for that. We're going to be doing a press release about the virus surveillance program
Yeah.
when it gets approved by the, assuming it gets approved by the board in 2 weeks. We'll be doing a press release at that point. Devon Lane was just finished today or yesterday, so, well, it would have been today. So we'll send out a press release about that as well.
Maybe some global, kind of annual report of the things that CBU has done for the community, and, have it all in one place.
Well, we have it on our website. We do that.
Yeah.
And so,
Good.
but yeah, we need to try to make that more visible.
All right, thank you.
Other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Oh, we were just going to skip right over that. Sorry. Any petitions or communications from anyone? Thank you, Jim. Now, a motion for adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Thank you. So moved.
All right.
So the way we'll do the tour